I'm so excited. I forgot to tell you one thing that's really cool. I was just checking our stats online. It turns out we just had a student join one of our programs from our 99th country. So we currently have active students right now in 99 countries around the world, which I'm very excited about. So welcome to the Team 99. And I am thrilled to find out which country will be country number 100 in our active student list. Very grateful for that. Let's go ahead and dive in. We're going back from, I think a week or so ago, we were talking about the 10 thoughts. If you remember, the first thought was looking for big wins versus consistent growth. And we talked about how consistent growth is the key if you really want to maximize your long-term winning capability and earnings, but also making sure that every day, week, month, and year, your bank account is bigger than the day, week, month, or year before. It should not go up and then down and then up and then down. Let's if it goes up and down, let's make sure it's a constant growth up and down. Second, double down on your core business, if you remember that. Figuring out what is the core business, your best business, the thing you're the best in the world at, the thing that you are absolutely, positively fantastic at, the thing that you can drive forward. If you remember, this would be considered your trade back in the day. If you were a master tradeswoman or master tradesman, you would have a trade that you bring to the world that allows you to barter with, that we would refer to as your core business. This next one, focusing on your best ROI projects. I'm pretty sure we did this one, and this is talking about the projects that are going to give you the most return for the time, effort, energy, thought, and risk you're putting into them. We talked about the project we're working on, one of which would take 1,000 customers and 12 months to be able to do. And in order to do all of that, we would make approximately, $250,000. But we had this other project we talked about that would take us 3 months to set up and get running, only take us 12 clients, and would produce $420,000. And we're like, well, duh. Why not start with the one that has the biggest and best ROI first? And then once we're cranking on that one, go take our spare time and work on the other one. So we did talk about that. Today we're on number 4, thought number 4 of these 10 thoughts. And so thought number 4 is the fact that knowledge compounds. This is what I like talking about as your personal PhD. Now, I didn't come up with a thought. Someone's asked Joshua saying, are all these live videos on YouTube? Yes, they are. I download them and then I take them over to YouTube and I upload them. So if you go to jrctv.com, you can find all of these videos up there. There's a massive library of hundreds and hundreds of videos up there that you can check out. So thank you for asking. So coming back, knowledge compounds. I didn't come up with that phrase. That is a Warren Buffett phrase. He's a pretty smart guy. He's done fairly well in business, you could say, as an investor. And he believes that knowledge compounds, meaning if you're constantly reading, constantly learning, constantly shoveling great thoughts in your mind, and you're doing it again and again and again, over time, you'll be in a new situation that you've never done before, trying to figure out how to solve something, and then bingo, the thought will just come to you and you'll go, oh my gosh, I know the answer to that. And partially why you know the answer is because literally you've been learning and learning and learning, and over time it starts to make sense of when and where and how it applies. And so how does this apply to you? How do we use knowledge compounding in your favor for your life, in your business, in your relationship? Well, the key here I look at is something I refer to as my personal PhD program. Meaning, I sat down, 5 years before I met my wife, and I sat down and I outlined a whole bunch of books, courses, retreats, seminars, events, teachers, and people I wanted to study from. Imagine if you were going to go to university and you got to hand pick each professor for each category you wanted to learn from. You want to learn from this person on relationships. You want to learn from this person on communication. You want to learn from this person on intimacy. You want to learn from this person on listening. You want to learn from this person on loving through conflict, and this person through, the ability to stay present. And it's like, wow. So I sat down and I mapped out my personal PhD in the topic of relationships. And for 5 years prior to meeting my wife, I was actively engaged, reading, and I believe in a 3-part process. So learn it. I was studying like crazy. Live it, I was applying it and testing, applying and testing, applying and testing, applying and testing. And then Give it, taking what really worked for me and helped and sharing it with somebody and helping them apply it and test it and see how it works for them as well. So it was a 3-part philosophy: learn it, live it, give it. And so I was applying for 5 years before I met my wife. And then I met my wife, and now we've been, through dating and now married for 5 years, but dating for a year before that. So 6 years. So that's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 years. I've been working on my personal PhD in the category of relationships, meaning studying, applying, practicing, and measuring what's working, what's not, how does it work, when does it work, when doesn't it work, coming up with my thesis and my hypothesis of this concept. And then from there, paying it forward. Every now and then I'll share some of the stuff on here, and I'm gonna probably either this year or next year, I'm gonna create a program for people in this process of how to really truly optimize your relationship, and either if you're ready to transition from being single to being in a lasting, loving partnership, how to bridge that gap, and what are all the things you want to know about yourself and the other person in doing so. Then if you're already in a relationship, there's some stuff that you might not have worked out in the beginning that kind of kicks you in the face down the road if you don't take time to sort it out. And so might be a good time before the problems happen to go through it and really connect and align and get on the same partnership team so you guys can make it happen. So now I'm in 11 years, six together with my wife, practicing, measuring, and applying, and 5 years prior to that. So 11 years in my PhD program. Now, most PhDs require a 4-year bachelor's, which I did before I met my wife. I was on 5 years of that. 2 more years for your master's, and then maybe 3 or 4 more years for your PhD. So I'm right within range in this next year to actually have completed a full PhD program on the topic of intimate relationships. It's, really, truly a powerful thing to do. And so if I look at that for relationships, I've been working on my personal PhD for relationships for 11 years. Now, when my wife and I got together, she was going to San Diego State University working on her master's in business, her MBA. And so her and I got together, and she loved business and I loved business. I said, well, let's study this together. So we've been working on our curriculum for our personal PhD, specifically in business, for the last, I think it's been 4 or 5 years now. So about 5 years into that one. Maybe 4 years into that one. It's either 4 or 5 years we've been working on it. I'll have to look at the date of the first course we attended. Hold on, I'll be right back. I'll go check. I think you can still hear me. I'm just looking for one of my binders. One of the first courses we went together. Let's see. 2000, what year is this one from? Whoops, dropped it. So 2015. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Yeah, so we'd be 4 years into our PhD program on business. So we're at a bachelor's level right now as far as our understanding and learning it. So gathering the knowledge, living it. If I could, I'm talking to my phone right now with you guys on it, but if I could log into my phone, I can tell you, I think we're currently at a 52% growth rate in our business this year to date, of how much we've done. We had 1 month this year with a 4,000% growth month over month, 2018 to 19 in profit. And so we've been learning it. We've been living it. We've been growing our team, growing our profit, growing our business, growing our customer range. We have customers in 99 countries around the world now, active current students right now. And so it's amazing to learn it, live it, really get the results, and give it, pay it forward. We've been sharing this with people and helping them scale their businesses, helping them hire people properly, helping them really truly learn what it is to focus on your core business and maximize the things that get the best and biggest ROI. That way they're getting really rich and profitable, not just really big and busy. Because some people I've watched, they scale their business so quickly and they get really big and really busy. And then the only problem is they're big and busy, but there's nothing left at the end of the year. I was sitting down and meeting with a group that we're a part of, and there was a group in there that makes $30 million in sales so far this year, but only had $91,000 in net profit. I was like, ouch. They got really big and busy, but they didn't get really rich in that process. And we're not anywhere near $31 million a year, but we have a lot more profit than they do. Tons. And part of that is because we've been applying our personal PhD in business, and we're at our bachelor's level, our 4-year mark here, and it's working. We're seeing the results because we're applying and measuring and fine-tuning what we're learning and living now, and we're helping others do the same, which is really fun. And so the topic today is mapping out your personal PhD program, saying if you had to pick, let's say, one topic to start with, what topic would you start with to dedicate the next, let's say, 12 years of study, research, practice, and application into, so that you could have deep level of mastery and do the deep work necessary to truly master this topic in your life? What would be the number one topic you'd want to focus on? Then, the next step, and feel free to throw in the comments. I'd love to hear what you guys want to focus on. The next thing I'd ask you is, if you took the time to map out the curriculum for this program, who are the people you'd want to study with? Who are the best professors or teachers or leaders in the world that you would love to learn from on this topic? Meaning you've heard about them, you've heard of a course they teach, you've heard of a book they've written. You would love to dive deep with them on the topic. Second, maybe go to that teacher's website or look them up, or go to the Amazon version where their bookstore is or their programs are, and make a list. Say, okay, I'm going to start mapping out the curriculum, the books I'm going to read, the programs I'm going to take, the courses I want to go through, the certifications I want to get. Now, P.S., I was talking about certifications. Here, let me grab this. In my personal PhD program let's see, these ones are for relationship. This is level 1 marriage and family therapy Gottman certification. This is level 2. I'm working through this one right now. So this is my personal PhD on relationships. That's 2 courses and certifications I'm going through. These ones, these big old ones, these ones are heavy. These ones are my business ones. I've been going through with a business mentor of ours who's been buying and selling businesses for 40 years. And then there's a whole other one back here. So I got tons of these things. These are the courses I've been taking on these topics. And let's see, someone wants to master self-realization. That's awesome. So who would be the professor? Who would be the teacher? Who would be the person you want to study that with? And then start mapping out the curriculum. And what's neat about this is when you look back on it, if I sat down and showed you what I've done for the past 11 years in relationships, I'm highly qualified and skilled to be able to walk you through the process. It's not because I had an epiphany one day sitting on a hill that I came up with some strategy or formula to get you somewhere. It's like, no, I put in the work. That's 11 years of understanding, applying, practicing, and assisting other people through the process, and it makes sense. I got invited one time to be on a leadership panel at Harvard for the graduate schools. And I was sitting there and I was humbled to be invited, and they put me up on the panel, and the gentleman to the right was the professor at Harvard who teaches the leadership course for their graduate studies. He's written multiple books on the topic of leadership. And so they introduced him. They handed me the mic and said, "Why don't you introduce yourself?" And I was like, oh boy. And I said, listen, I've accomplished a lot. I've achieved some things. I've done pretty well. And I said, I don't think any of that really serves you right now. I said, the best thing I could offer on a leadership panel is to just share with you my philosophy when it comes to leadership. And my philosophy of leadership is learn it, live it, give it. Sit down and map out and learn what it takes to achieve the results you really desire. You got to learn what it takes. You got to study it like it's the most important thing in your world until you really, truly have mastered the learning of the process. So number 2, you have to fully apply it in your life, and you have to actually live it. You can't just study it and never have real practice. You got to live it. You have to practice it in your life, and you have to figure out how to actually get the tangible results you're talking about or wanting or desiring. And then 3, once you've acquired the knowledge and the experience of doing it, give it. Find a way to pay it forward and just share it with other people and help them do the same in their own version, in their own way they want to do it. I said, that's it. And I said, I hope that's useful. I'd like to share with you what works on any topic I've been studying and practicing. And, if that's helpful, let's have at it. And then I passed the mic to the gentleman sitting next to me. He was the in charge of the United States Cyber Warfare Division of the entire U.S. Air Force. Like, obviously this dude's a leader. And I could have easily been thrown under the bus there by these multiple people sitting around me who are badass leaders in the world, teaching leadership at Harvard, leading the U.S. Air Force cyber defense people. And this thought is, hold on one second, I need to clear someone out of here. Boom, and gone. There we go. And so the thought of these gentlemen could have easily tossed me under the bus because I'm not as qualified as they are in the way they're qualified. They're much older and much more tenured than I am. But a really kind gesture, the gentleman in the Air Force sitting next to me said, really simply, he said, I have to say that description of leadership is one of the best I've ever heard from the gentleman sitting to my right here. I concur with that. I was like, wow, how great, how nice of him, how kind of him is to offer me that little support in that moment when I'm sitting on a panel that's I was invited to, but a little out of my league in that case. And it's very kind of him to offer that gesture of support in what I had said. But I really do believe that is leadership. I really believe, going out and studying it like crazy and learning everything you can about it, living it and fully applying it in your life, and then paying forward and sharing what works with other people is really leadership. That first level of leadership is, are you able to lead yourself to do what you know you need to be doing? I was talking to a gentleman earlier today, and he says, listen, I have multiple businesses, I have a family. The biggest thing is my willpower just keeps giving out. I know what I need to do, and I'll get all excited, I'll get fired up, I'll go and go and go and go, and then, I don't know, I just fizzle out. And, something... He's just saying, basically, he has not figured out how to become a master leader of himself. He's not figured out how to lead himself consistently to the things he knows he needs to be doing. Meaning he's studied it, and the application of living it is lacking in his life. And it's not because he doesn't want it. Willpower is the weakest form of consistency. And so, can you advise on how to become consistent? Absolutely. There's a couple things that help with consistency. Number one, environment. The environment is how you really become consistent. You set external cues or triggers that naturally set off the routine that you want to yourself to do. For instance, I'm trying to think of how they did this. So here's an example. In Vietnam, there was a huge problem with young warriors or young soldiers being addicted to heroin. Now, none of these soldiers were addicted to heroin prior to going to Vietnam, but when they got there, they got addicted to heroin. And so there was a bunch of triggers or cues in the environment. There was easily access to the drugs, which they didn't necessarily want to do, but they were there, and they ended up doing them. And the concept was, in that environment, they're completely stressed out, they're not in a comfortable place, there's people dying around them, they're losing friends and family members, they're freaking out emotionally, their life is on the line, they're incredibly stressed out, and they're bored because they're on the other side of the world and there's nothing else to do, kind of stuff. If you make that environment and then you add in easy access to this stuff, it's easy to get people hooked on it. Now, what's crazy is there was a whole task force put together, and then when they brought these young guys home, and they tried to figure out how to get them off of it. Now, what was insane, if I remember the stats off the top of my head, it was something like 91% they were able to get off within the first year of them being home. That was it. And this is one of the hardest things to kick in the world. And what they found out was when they removed the cues or triggers that caused them to be addicted to it, that caused them to reach for it. When they took away the friend that they used to do it with, when they took away the place they used to do it, when they took away easy access to it, when they put them around a new peer group, which is one of the ways to stay consistent, who would no longer let them do that kind of crap because they'd call them out on it, when they put them in a new environment that did not have easy access to this stuff and made it illegal and difficult to access, and then when they also put them in an environment with other cues, with other triggers that set it off, all of a sudden it wasn't discipline or willpower that kept them off the drugs. It was the environmental cues. It was wake up, seeing in the gym and going, oh, I should work out instead of go do drugs. It was like, oh, I'm with these friends. These friends like to eat healthy. I'm going to go eat healthy with them. It's using the environment around you to naturally set off the habits and rhythms you want. Hence, why when people do get addicted to drugs at home in their normal day-to-day life, it's very difficult to get them off of it. Because even if you take them away and go put them in a rehab, the moment they come home, all the old triggers, all the old cues set off all the old environmental thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and all of a sudden, boom, they start doing the drugs again. Ugh. Give you another example. If you wanted to stop eating junk food and every time you go to the store, you land up buying junk food, go to a new store. And when you go to this new store, make a rule in your brain that says, I will only buy health food when I go to this store. Period. You never buy any crap food at this store. Period. This is the health food store. And all of a sudden what happens is you go to the store, number one, your brain doesn't know where the junk food is. So as you're walking around the store, sometimes even if you want to buy healthy stuff at your normal store, you'll walk by the junk and your hand will just grab it and pull it in. You're like, no, you can't do that. And so you got to change the environment. You got to change the place you go and then make a new rule that says, in this environment, this is how I do it. And so when people are being inconsistent, one of the biggest problems they're having is they've built a bunch of triggers and cues in the environment they're in that are inconsistent patterns, inconsistent habits. So you need to radically change the environment you're in. Now, this could mean resetting or repositioning all the stuff in your home. You can move everything around and then say, hey, in this format, in this way, when my bed's over here instead of over there, this is how I do it now. And you can reset the new patterns. But willpower is the weakest way to try to do it. It doesn't last. No one that I've met. There's very few people who have the willpower to lead themselves in that way and never cave. There's very few. There are some, but very few. Most of us are going to need to reset the entire environment to support the new system. The other piece you're going to need to reset is your identity, who you believe yourself to be. If you think you're a lazy person, if you live into your story that you need to go heal from, which is your past, and say, because that happened to me, that's why I can never follow through, then you're stuck. So you got to change the identity of who you believe yourself to be. Great groups for that. AA is great for that with drugs. I have a young friend who's addicted to drugs right now, just came out of the hospital. What should I do? Get them to either AA or the anonymous groups. They're very helpful in that. They help reinforce an identity. They help with support. They help with systems. They help with accountability. There's lots of things that those groups do with. Okay, I'm going to wrap up. So we're on 10 thoughts. We've done the first 4. Tomorrow we'll do number 5, which is getting the odds in your favor. So have fun with this, kick some butt, tag someone who needs to see it. If you want to see this again, it'll be up for 24 hours. If you need to see it after 24 hours, go to jrctv.com. That's our YouTube channel, and you can see all of this on there. God bless. Have a great night. Talk to y'all later.